If you want to have greater self-confidence, you want to be able to achieve more of what matters, then pay close attention. Whether you are right or wrong, you will always have detractors no matter what you do. So how do you handle this? How do you gain a leadership position while still having people disagreeing with you? I'm Justin Hitt with Inside Strategic Relations. No matter whether you're right or wrong in what you say, there will always be detractors. So what I'm recommending is you do what you believe to be right, and most often, and understand this, that most often you're surrounded by cowards. See, here's the problem. If you're in the top 20% of knowledge for a specific area, and you've been asked to speak on that particular area, and you don't realize that 4 out of 5 people don't have as much knowledge as you, then what's going to happen there is you're going to have somebody disagree. Now, it depends on how people disagree. We've got this thing called cancel culture today. They could try to deplatform you. They could try to get you fired from a job. And if you say anything that no matter how well researched, no matter how right or correct it is, you can get in a lot of trouble. But again, it's the low self-esteem people around you that rather than engaging in a dialogue or having a friendly conversation, seek to pull down those who are perceived to be more successful. And they do this because when they see someone who's successful, when they see someone who's an authority, they want to bring that person to their level, because accepting that this common individual that they're seeing someplace else is successful is turned to for advice, and they aren't. And depending on how passionate they are about their opinion, they just feel like, I got to pull that person down. See, you've got to understand that some will, some won't. So what? When you speak earnestly, you speak from experience. You think about what you're saying and you deliver it in the most valuable way for that audience. And someone still raises their hand and calls you an idiot, says you don't know what you're talking about. That is not a rebuttal. That is someone, again, low self-esteem. They don't have the communication skills. They lack confidence. And by simply standing your ground, listening to their concern, and then returning right back to the original message as informed by sources, if that doesn't work, then you can just leave them alone. See, people want praise and acknowledgement. They don't want to see others get praise and acknowledgement. And when you cave to this crowd, such as cancel culture crowd, and you apologize and you wishy-washy the words, all you're really doing is backing up, and they're now going to pounce on you. They see you as a wounded animal. Now, there are times that people make mistakes. You may be interviewed and you may say something, and you may realize after a while that it's wrong. Perhaps your experiences are not as accurate for all people involved, and you're just sharing your perspective. Now, sensible people will have a conversation about it. They might write you a letter. They might privately have a conversation. That is great. It helps you grow, and you want to encourage that. But you don't want to have skin so thick that if somebody challenges your perception on something or challenges your statement, that you just dig in. Because again, why are you speaking? Why are you being interviewed? See, if you're building an audience and you're presenting yourself as an expert, perhaps you're a lawyer, you're on the news, and you're sharing your opinion of an upcoming case or your perspective or the legal statute in that particular case, people aren't going to agree with you. And if you back down on that statement, you look less confident as an expert in the field. Now, I'm going to give you 4 steps you can take to make sure that no matter how this turns out, again, whether you're right or wrong, somebody's going to disagree. But let's first look at this, how a lot of people look at this. See, we see in the news right now, people argue back. So let's say you're speaking to a group and there's audience questions and somebody just starts digging in. They start going after your character. They start going after the facts of the situation. They they ask questions that set up a response. And you can tell by listening to them that they're not based. Well, you could argue back. But I would tell you that stupidity has no bounds. If you are legitimately in the top 20% of your field, you're a highly paid expert, You have companies turn to you. You have experience in the area where you're being interviewed or where you're doing a presentation, and you're going to argue back with somebody. That immediately takes away the confidence that you have. It immediately puts you aside as someone who doesn't have belief in what they're saying. Or worse, it shows that you're closed-minded, because it is possible that you weren't exactly clear in the communications. So you're accurate in the knowledge, but maybe you weren't clear in the communications. Now, other people will just keep their mouth shut. Somebody argues with them, somebody tries to cancel them, they just won't say anything. That's okay. Silence is good, but does that silence allow good information to go away while bad information overwhelms? See, a lot of people who believe they know the truth, yet don't really have the truth, tend to speak the loudest. They tend to get out in the crowd. They tend to sensationalize things. Because again, remember we talked about people want praise and attention. And if they've got a group around them that's praising their idea or concept, even as wrong as it is, and they can get additional attention for that idea, they are elevated in their group. Again, I'm going to give you 4 steps so that you can focus your energy, you can gain that authority, and you can get the desired outcome you're looking for. But one more item. Many times, you know you're in the right. You've got the facts to prove it. And somebody comes up and they're detractors. They're saying, hey, look, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're doing. There's other cases that show different. You're a fake. You're a fraud. Now, there's always that understanding when you've got that confidence that you know what you're talking about. There's always that, it feels like it might be a good thing, is to stir up the detractors. Now, unless you've got a marketing plan in place or a public relations plan in place, just stirring up detractors is only going to irritate you. First off, crazy people or people who are defensive and illogical, they have no ends. They have nothing to lose. They can fight you all the time. They can dox you. They can send people to your house. They can do a lot of weird and messed up things. Critical thinking is a rare skill these days. They don't think like you do. First off, if I disagree with somebody, as a recognized expert in my area, and I disagree with somebody, I have a platform to just write an article that counters the original article. I don't need to fight the person. I don't need to call them on the phone and say nasty things. I can simply just write an article, or within my media can go ahead and just counter the claim. But you don't want to stir up things. You don't want to reverse the situation. Here's the 4 steps you want to take. First, number 1 is do your homework. If you're going to do any public presentation, do your homework. You want to know not only your side of the argument, you want to know the other side of the argument. You want to know what off-the-wall things people might come up with. And go ahead and prepare some responses. If there are common misconceptions in the industry, you go ahead and list those out. If there's common mistakes people make, list those out. You want to be prepared doing your homework. Number 2 is you want to choose the right audience. First off, today in the modern world, you can record things. You can do a presentation in front of a very favorable audience and then use the recording of that in the mass syndication. You don't necessarily want to go speak to a public audience. If you're in the top 20% of your field, if you have invested in the knowledge necessary to do a complex job, you want to be speaking in front of the people that are in the top 50% of that field. You want to be speaking with professionals. You don't want your presentation it's already stressful enough to do presentations. You don't want to disrupt it by someone who's going to yell, somebody who's going to throw things, somebody who's going to have a fit like a little baby. You want to be choosing your audience. When you choose your audience, you'll get the opportunity to get that message out and test your clarity of communications. You might even have an opportunity for dialogue where there's some mutual gain in the sense of, you're in front of the top 20% people, you're in front of your peers, you speak on a topic, and then you can talk at the level that you're at to explore the ideas, solidify the ideas, and gain allies in a perspective. Now, you're not there to gain allies in a perspective. You're number 3, speaking with purpose. Why are you there to speak? So if you're going to be interviewed on a particular topic, are you promoting a company, a marketing campaign? Are you promoting yourself as an authority or an expert in the field? If you're presenting yourself as an authority in the field and someone comes to rally you up, someone comes to challenge your opinion on this thing, someone calls you out for something, and you have anything other than maybe asking a clarification question and organizing the conversation back to the theme of the presentation, if you get upset or anything like that, it is going to take away from your authority position. So you do not want to do that. Number 4, you want to expand your platform. So the first couple of times you do a presentation that may or may not be controversial, and you realize in preparing for your presentation that some people might counterclaim you, some people might try to ask you awkward questions, go ahead and speak to a group that is a friendly group. Speak to your trade association. Speak to a small group of friends. Set up the presentation. A lot of times you can record the audio or you can write a featured article and present it out to the world and primarily put it in front of peers, primarily put it in front of the people who don't necessarily need the information, but get it out there so that when the controversial topic does come up, you've already got a platform, you've already got a basis, you've already got a position that you're speaking from. Now, why is all this important? Well, the focus on truth and results matters more in the long run than all this cancel culture that's going on right now. If there are facts that are proven by evidence and you do a short talk about something and someone challenges you, you can say to them, hey, look, I understand how you might see it that way. That's why I wrote a book on the topic, and I would be more than happy if you'll contact my office, share the question, the deeper context of your question. I'd be more than happy to send you a copy of the book so that we can have a dialogue about this. See, if you wrote the book first, if you were on other presentations before that, if you've already spoke to your peers, it's difficult to deplatform you because you've got credibility. See, if you want to gain influence and opportunity in a marketplace, you don't need to be speaking to everybody. You need to be speaking to decision makers. Now, if you get a counter response from a decision maker, perhaps you didn't properly go through the homework that's necessary to understand that audience. Because again, we're not speaking about your knowledge, your level of understanding. We're speaking to the needs of that audience. And by doing your homework, by choosing the right audience, by speaking with purpose, and by expanding your platform, you can gain confidence in your ability to deliver, but also gain some context in case you're in the wrong position. See, sometimes we have what's called a cognitive bias when we believe that we're in the top 20% of a subject area. And I know there's topics that you could speak on that you are the authority. You know every detail of that topic. But in your enthusiasm, can you convey the key points that a novice audience needs? See, there's a little bit to look at on both sides here, but these 4 steps position you to be able to focus your energy on the desired result and reduce the amount of detractors that may take away from your presentation. It's a really important thing to deal with these days. It's a really critical challenge to be aware of, because even in scientific circles, even in the professional world, people are getting canceled by individuals who don't have context or even the ability to think about what they've just heard. Hey, I'm Justin Hitt with Inside Strategic Relations. Are you tired of cancel culture? Well, with these methods, you can accomplish more and worry less. If you want to opt out of cancel culture today, then write my offices with your questions. If you visit www.insidestrategicrelations.com and click on the contact button, you'll see a fax number, postal address, anything that you're going to need to contact me. And here's what you do. You write your questions, concerns, frustrations, whatever it is, whether it's in relationship to cancel culture, gaining authority, even though there's a high risk of cancellation these days, or it's just a simple question about building business relationships. If you'll write my office, I will write you back and answer your question, as well as share additional resources that are going to help you get results. Because it doesn't matter if people cancel you. It doesn't really matter because you don't have to participate in that. If you follow the 4 steps I've shared here, if you use the other techniques we've talked about, you will be able to focus on truth and results. You'll be able to align with influencers who can elevate your message. You'll be able to gain greater confidence despite some of the awkward situations you may be in. I've spoken with adversarial audiences. I've spoken under duress, and it's hard to do. But once you understand these methods, it's really elevates your position. You can really prepare and be ready. So that's what I want to share with you today. Again, I'm Justin Hitt from Inside Strategic Relations, where we help you transform business relationships into profits guaranteed. You do this through influence, clear communications, and the ability to command the destiny that you desire. Thanks for listening.